One toxic employee will destroy your business much faster than workload. And if you don't address a toxic employee, they will manipulate, divide, kill your morale, but ultimately they will truly kill your business. And I've got so many examples as to how this has happened in life. But first, let me share a story with you. I was working with a toxic employee long time ago, and the CEO of this company knew that he had a toxic employee. Why? Because every other person would come to him and tell him they didn't want to work with Bob. They don't like being on a team with Bob. They don't like how Bob sends them emails. It was just one thing after the other. The kicker though, it wasn't an employee. It was a leader. And it was someone who had a voice at the table. So that's hard. That's hard for a CEO to swallow when they realize that someone that they've mentored and coached and had belief in is actually the toxic employee in their business. But it got to the point that it was so bad that when they would have leadership team meetings, nobody would talk except for Bob. And when Bob would talk, everybody was just, yep, sure, okay, fine, whatever. So nothing happened. The company never got to move forward. They didn't get to have any progress. It was just such an awkward environment that the CEO every day knew he needed to do something. The problem again was that Bob was still performing. Bob was still bringing in numbers, was still bringing in clients. And sometimes there'd be complaints from clients about Bob, but not to the extent of what the other employees were saying. So it was hard for the CEO to take the time and actually want to have a conversation with Bob because he was nervous that Bob would quit. And he felt that if Bob quit, his business would suffer, or other people may quit, or the environment in the community, people would be like, why did you fire Bob? Or why did Bob quit? So the CEO had all this tension and awkwardness and just kept telling his team, I'm going to do it, or I'm handling it, or, I'm having a conversation. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse to the point that it exploded. And at a leadership meeting, Bob was bringing up a new process that he wanted in the business. Nobody else wanted it. And so another leader had just broke down in the meeting and like a full-on argument happened, to the point that the CEO had to step in and actually tell people, whoa, you sit over there, like relax, But this is when they were actually now finally able to tell Bob, I think the way that you speak to others is inappropriate, and how you're managing things are inappropriate, and you want to create a policy, but you don't follow the policy yourself, But it took years for that to happen and all this build up. And eventually when it exploded, there were other leaders that quit because they just couldn't handle the environment. Even though they said that they were going to have a plan to work at things, etc., it just festered. And it's not okay. It's not okay for employees, whether it's an employee or a leader, to come into work and create this toxic environment. And it's not okay for a CEO to let it happen. So 3 main things that I have that you can help address a toxic employee. The first one, you've got to document. You've got to document the trends. When you are, as a leader or this CEO, going to go have a conversation with the toxic person, they don't necessarily know they're toxic. They just think that they know their shit, right? And perhaps, especially if they're good at their job. So you need to have these trends to be able to show to them that they're not the shit and they do make people feel uncomfortable. So you've got to be specific by documenting these trends. And on this day, you said this and you made this person feel uncomfortable. this was reported to me, or this is the email that you sent. Like, you have to have all of this data so that when you sit down with the individual, it becomes clear that they are creating an uncomfortable environment in the workplace. The second one, you cannot let it fester. You have to address it fast. If you don't address it fast, it really does diminish morale, business, sales, revenue, everything. It affects, that one person affects everybody. It's like when, someone's walking through the path and no one likes them, and when the person walks by, you just feel gross, It's just awkward. And you can't let your team feel this way. So you have to address it fast. And the third one, there has to be consequences. You can't just have a conversation with a toxic person and be like, oh, I hope everything's going to be okay and I'll check on you in a week. If you don't set out clear expectations with consequences, why should this person change? Why would they even try to, right? So if you want more information and more details on how to address a toxic person, click on the link below. And I look forward to seeing you in our next video for any HR tips and tricks.